Wow, stories.
Am I the idiot for telling my husband to get his act together or get out? My husband, 30-year-old male, took the leap of faith and checked himself into a mental hospital a few days ago. I'll start off by saying I am very proud of him, and I think that choice was incredibly brave, especially with his family not being supportive. For the record, he's only heard praise from me on this. He doesn't know anything beyond pure support from me. I've put on a very brave face for our children and for him. Everything that's happened leading up to this hospital stay has been awful for me. He's been mean for nearly 6 months, quit his steady job. I've caught him in lie after lie, no infidelity to my knowledge. He stopped helping with our kids who are toddlers. Our intimacy life hasn't felt right. We were still doing it, but I never felt good afterwards. I haven't felt loved for a while. I've taken over all the child care and I still work from home. My heart is actually broken as I watch the man I knew and loved turn into a stranger. It makes my stomach sink every time I think about it. What do I do when he comes home? The last straw before the hospital was he quit another job for no reason. When we asked him why he quit, he said, and I quote, "I don't know." Then he lied to me about it for several days. He'd just go to his parents during his workday. He says he feels apathetic to everything, and I didn't know he felt apathetic. When we were on good terms, that's what I was desperately holding on to. I guess that was literally all fabricated because he was in a crisis. I feel stupid. I feel like a failure, and I feel entirely unlovable. The last time I saw him, he seemed better. He's on a new medication regimen, and it's like the light is back in his eyes. My trust in him is still gone, though. I see him and think about the hurtful things he's said and done that have led up to this. When I'm home with our 2 children and I'm busting my butt to make money to keep a roof over our heads, I'm angry. I'm so angry at him. I'm glad he got the help he needed, but it feels like it's at my expense, literally and metaphorically. In writing this, I realized we definitely need couples counseling, and maybe I can tell him these intense feelings in a safe space. I'm scared he's going to become someone I recognize again, and I will be facing the man I love and telling him how he's quite literally crushed my spirits and turned me into a shell of a person. I don't know if this is better as an inside thought, or if my feelings really need to be out in the open if he does get better. Will that even benefit anyone? Anyway, my heart is crushed, but I'm also happy and grateful he's getting the help he needs. I seriously believe he is bipolar, and now I understand why a lot of people with unmediated bipolar can't maintain relationships. I used to think the more normal one was just heartless, but I get it now. Watching the person I fell in love with turn into a lying, unkind, unhinged man really does something to a person. Just to clarify, I'm not shitting on people with mental health struggles. I have mental health struggles of my own. But being on the receiving end of this extent of mental illness is freaking gut-wrenching. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. To add, we had family therapy today, and my husband let me, his mom and sister know. He has been officially diagnosed with bipolar, so the guy accusing me of armchair diagnosing my own spouse in the comments can shove it. He's been put on Abilify, and he says he's already experiencing positive effects. His case manager says he's been out talking to everybody, which I'm super proud of. He's a very quiet guy, and he's shown significant improvement in the last few days. Thank you to almost everyone who's commented, even those encouraging me to leave. I appreciate your concern for me and my children. If the situation doesn't improve tremendously, and if it ever becomes unsafe, don't worry. We'll be out of here. For now, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and remembering in sickness and in health. His caseworker says we're all he talks about, and he wants to get better for me especially. I will be requesting a therapy session with the 2 of us before he's discharged. So, I'll update on that later if we're allowed to do that. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I've been on both sides of this, unfortunately. My advice is to take one step at a time because altogether it is overwhelming. First, you are justified in your feelings. This analogy is often used for recovering addicts, but it works for mental illness too. He's been a tornado for a while now. He's going to feel better once that tornado's gone. But that doesn't change the fact that while it lasted, it caused a lot of damage. and will take time to rebuild. Second, of course, it's important for you to be supportive, but that doesn't have to come at your own expense. You are spot on that couples counseling will be critical moving forward, and his health providers right now should be able to make referrals, recommendations. But you would also probably benefit from individual counseling as well. You're married to someone who will have to be vigilant about his mental health. You need to be the same. You need your own safe space. You also need to be prepared to advocate for yourself and to know when too much is enough. Third, if you do eventually decide that you can't be married to him anymore, don't make excuses to stay for fear of what people think or because you think you didn't try hard enough. Most people with mental illness can have happy, supportive, healthy marriages as long as they are managing it, staying on meds, regular checkups to monitor dosage, effectiveness, etc. He has to do that to earn back your trust and keep it. Comment 2. Lots of good advice for you here. My mom had a serious breakdown psychosis when I was about 40. I was in the mental health field at the time and thought I knew what I was doing, but you're right. Handling the decompensation of someone you love is one of life's cruelest lessons. I guess I'd say, just remember that while you've been on an awful journey, he has too. You can't trust him, but I guarantee you that if he's honest, he doesn't trust himself either. The hospital will hopefully have you in for some counseling, though I agree you should get your own as well. And there should be some kind of aftercare plan where the doctor and psychologist will outline a good path of recovery, including what kind of work would be good, other routines, things to avoid, etc. I volunteer now for NAMI, which is the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. They are a wonderful resource that I advise you to use. They have a program called LEAP, which I think applies in your case and helps the loved ones of the mentally ill person learn how to be of the most help. There's a NAMI office in every sizable town. They also offer support groups for family members. It'd be a good place to vent and see how others have handled situations like yours. Best of luck. I hope you and your husband both do well. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all of this. So, 2 weeks have passed since my husband checked himself into the mental hospital, and a lot has happened. He was discharged a few days ago, and I was cautiously optimistic. The first few days at home were surprisingly smooth. He was more present with the kids, helping out with meals and bedtime routines. It felt like a small piece of the man I married was back. We even had a couple of good conversations where he apologized for his behavior and acknowledged the pain he caused. I thought maybe, just maybe, we were on the right track. But then, something happened that threw everything off course. I made a mistake that I didn't realize would have such a big impact. I had been so focused on his recovery that I forgot to take care of myself. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and I snapped at him over something trivial. I accused him of not trying hard enough, of not really caring about us. It was like all the anger and frustration I had bottled up just exploded. He looked hurt and confused, and I immediately regretted it. But the damage was done. That night, he didn't come to bed. I found him sleeping on the couch the next morning, and he was distant and withdrawn. He started missing his medication doses, saying he didn't need them anymore. He stopped going to his therapy sessions, claiming they weren't helping. It was like he was slipping back into his old patterns, and I felt helpless to stop it. The kids noticed the change too. Our oldest asked me why Daddy was sad again, and I didn't know how to answer. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for them, but it was hard. I was juggling work, childcare, and now this new crisis. I felt like I was drowning. We had a family therapy session scheduled, and I hoped it would help. But it didn't go as planned. My husband was defensive and angry, accusing me of not supporting him, of not understanding what he was going through. I tried to explain how hard it was for me too, but it felt like we were speaking different languages. The therapist suggested we take a break and come back when we were both calmer, but I left feeling more hopeless than ever. The next few days were a blur. My husband was in and out of the house, sometimes disappearing for hours without telling me where he was going. I was worried sick, but I didn't know what to do. I reached out to his case manager, who suggested we try a different medication and increase his therapy sessions. But my husband refused, saying he didn't need any more help. One night he came home late and smelled like alcohol. He had never been a big drinker, so this was new and alarming. I confronted him, and he admitted he had been going to a bar to clear his head. I was furious and scared. I didn't know how to reach him, how to make him see that he needed help. In the midst of all this, I found out something that shook me to my core. I was cleaning up the house and found a letter hidden in his desk. It was from his father, written years ago, before we even met. The letter was full of anger and resentment, blaming my husband for all the family's problems. It was clear that his father's words had left deep scars, and I realized that a lot of my husband's behavior was rooted in this unresolved pain. I tried to talk to him about it, but he shut down. He didn't want to discuss his father or the letter. It was like a wall had gone up between us, and I didn't know how to break it down. I felt like I was losing him all over again. In the middle of all this chaos, I had a moment of clarity. I realized that I couldn't fix him. I could support him, love him, and be there for him, but I couldn't make him better. He had to want it for himself. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it was the truth. I decided to focus on what I could control. I made sure the kids were taken care of, that they felt loved and secure. I reached out to friends and family for support, something I'd been reluctant to do before. I started seeing a therapist myself to help me cope with everything that was happening. As for my husband, I gave him space. I let him know that I was there for him, but I didn't push. Slowly, he started to come around. He went back to his therapy sessions and started taking his medication again. It was a small step, but it was something. We had another family therapy session, and this time, it went better. We were both more open and honest, and it felt like we were finally making some progress. It was clear that we had a long road ahead of us, but I was willing to walk it with him. In the end, I learned that recovery is not a straight line. There are ups and downs, and sometimes it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But as long as we're moving forward, even slowly, there's hope.